After a recent territorial dispute went sideways, the Amazing Spider Man series has erupted into a massive gang war. Peter Parker himself has even responded to the threat by assembling a super team of his very own. And in the most recent chapter of Amazing Spider Man, we even saw Peter Parker team up with Tombstone himself. My name is Arako Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and chart the various advances across Marvel's Gang War and Amazing Spider-Man issue 40. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button over on our video. Gang War continues. Battle lines are drawn with Spidey and his crew being the only ones that can save all of New York City from the worst supercriminals to ever supercriminal. But is Tombstone on their side, and you won't believe your eyes reading the last page of this issue. Amazing Spider-Man issue 40 is still written over from Zeb Wells, featuring beautiful artwork from John Romita Jr. We have inks from Scott Hanna, colors from Marcio Menyz, and a cover coming in over from John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menyz. Also want to give a big shout out over to VC's Joe Caramagna for lettering this issue as well here. Really love this cover over on Amazing Spider-Man, showcasing Peter Parker and Tombstone fighting side by side in the midst of the gang war, in the middle of all these various territorial disputes here. So I haven't always been the biggest fan of what John Romita Jr. has lent over to the core Amazing Spider-Man series, but I think the gang war is one of the best uses that Zeb Wells has ever employed in terms of Romita Jr.'s artwork. I think there's something to be said about the big, blocky figures and the way that they're able to communicate their animosity over with Spider-Man. I also really appreciated this next sequence over in the issue that introduced our protagonists with Spider-Man and Tombstone. The way that these two characters enter into this territorial dispute with the inner demons of Mr. Negative and the Tracksuit Mafia is just an incredibly ambitious way to introduce our lead characters here and also really dial up the intrigue in terms of this Amazing Spider-Man issue. Also, if we can just go ahead and reference the art a little bit, I think Romita Jr. is so great at depicting all the various details with characters like the inner demons and the Tracksuit Mafia within this issue as well. Over on this next page, we get a great introduction over to Tombstone in the issue, who has his back towards the camera here. Once again, John Romita Jr. is just so great at detailing that animosity with his various figures, and I think this is just a great way to bring out the tension inherent within the narrative here. Tombstone brings some really fascinating character interactions towards Amazing Spider-Man 2. I also thought that this page that we have up on the screen was another incredibly endearing moment over between Spider-Man and She-Hulk. I really love how Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. utilize the physicality of Jennifer to create all these humor-based scenarios over for Spider-Man. I also think it's really interesting that out of all the various characters that Spider-Man has assembled in his team to respond to the gang war, that it seems like She-Hulk and Spider-Man have this really close friendship, even with all the other heroes in the midst of the rest of the book here. It was really thrilling to see a little bit more follow-up on the plot threads that are currently spinning over with Madame Mask in the issue. I think Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. have just done a fantastic job setting this plot thread up and really introducing more and more material as the issue progresses here. I also thought the way that Madame Mask was able to intercept some of the other crime lords with individuals like Nefaria to be an incredible and just endearing way to go ahead and progress this issue as well. Janice Lincoln also got some really fantastic material across Amazing Spider-Man. We've referenced this over and over again, but the way that Janice is really able to show up and resurface in all these different contexts, just like Robbie Robertson, is part of what makes Amazing Spider-Man so special right now. It feels like the supporting cast across this issue is just so strong, and it really just took 40 issues to get to this stage over in Amazing Spider-Man. I really have to hand it to the last couple pages, introducing multiple generations of characters throughout all these different contexts here. Zeb Wells has always paid such close attention to detail, and I think this particular chapter of Amazing Spider-Man has reaped all the rewards and all of the careful plot threads that Wells has crafted across several issues of Spider-Man. Also, the way that John Romita Jr. is able to render the figures on the last couple pages once again teases out the intrigue within this issue of Amazing Spider-Man incredibly well here. So at the end of the day, I really think Amazing Spider-Man issue 40 is the best chapter of the gang war to date. There is so much material inherent within this issue. Also, witnessing the multiple generations of characters duke it out against each other and seeing all these new roles for existing Amazing Spider-Man cast members is just a fascinating sight to behold. I want to know from you, did you appreciate Amazing Spider-Man issue 40 as much as I did? What do you think about the way that John Romita Jr. is able to render figures like Wilson Fisk and Tombstone? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out our video review over on Amazing Spider-Man issue 40, and we'll be back to see wherever this series is headed in the near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.